Hello there, it's me again, and today I thought I'd take the official character descriptions for Thomas characters and put them through the Google Translate ringer. And also a few other translation tools for when Google Translate doesn't want to work properly. A few months ago I did this with Thomas, Percy and James, and so today I'll be doing it with the engines that started it all, Edward, Gordon and Henry. The process is still the same. Translate the character bios into a bunch of different languages and then back to English. Although I have added a few more languages in an effort to make the results even crazier. With that said and done, it's time to move on to the drawings. The official description for Edward, as per the official website when it first launched, is as follows. Edward is an older engine, but the most important thing about him is that he's kind. Kind to small engines who get into difficulties, kind to big engines even when they're rude or impatient, kind to the trucks and coaches which he almost never bumps. When the other engines misbehave, it's Edward that Sir Topham Hatt turns to calm everyone down and restore order. Edward sometimes gets puffed, but never very cross. After being translated to within an inch of its life, it is now this. Edward was also a master trainer, his great quality being a small quiet train, huge train, or unfamiliar trains and vehicles where trouble arose again and the command of Sharat Tomp and Edward was resorted to. Now you see, the thing with the translations in the first video is that whilst they were pretty bizarre and different to how we normally know the characters, the translations still sort of made sense. With this translation we're starting to delve into complete nonsense. Edward being a master trainer I can get behind, but I struggled to figure out how I was supposed to draw Edward as both small and huge at the same time. Some purists may consider this a cop-out, but in the end I've decided to draw multiple Edwards of different sizes. The normal sized Edward is in his master trainer guise, which in this case basically just means wearing a cap and a whistle around his smoke box, just in case his own whistle stops working I suppose. As with the translations in the first video, you can sort of see remnants of the original description in the retranslated version. Edward's trait of being old means that he's a master, apparently, and his newfound ability to change size is a mangling of the point about Edward being kind to engines big and small. Sir Topham Hatt became Sharat Tomp. Now, unlike Robbie Gordon and Rob Thomas from the previous video on this subject, I was unable to find anyone in real life called Sharat Tomp. I've never heard of the name Tomp in my life. What's a Tomp? I did a bit of searching and discovered that Tomp has multiple meanings, most of which are in the form of acronyms. The most common usage of Tomp as an acronym is Toxic Organic Micropollutant. This is, well, a micropollutant that is toxic and organic. Do keep up. Examples of this include pesticides and insecticides. And so I've drawn Sharat Tomp as a big bottle of insecticide that the three Edwards are taking orders from. You can't see the big Edward's face because he's just too damn big, but I've made the faces of the normal Edward and the mini Edward different. I've based normal Edward's face on his season 2 and onwards design, whereas I've tried to make mini Edward's face look more like his season 1 smiling face that never appeared again. I always thought this face looked a bit too youthful for Edward, but perhaps mini Edward is a younger version of Edward who will later grow up into normal sized Edward. You might say that's not how trains work, which is true, but trains also don't take orders from a bottle of insecticide, so it's a moot point at the end of the day. But with all that said, here is the finished picture. Here's Gordon's official character description from the days of yore. Gordon is the senior member of the engine family, the fastest and most powerful of Sir Topham Hatt's string, and he knows it. He's good-hearted though, and always willing to forgive and use his superior strength to help the smaller engines out of trouble. And when translated, this becomes: Gordon was the oldest member of the motorcycle family, Sir Topham Hatt team, and the fastest and strongest rider. Although experienced, he played an important role in helping the younger members. So, once again, there are motorcycles involved. Not sure what that's about. Given that Gordon helps the younger members of the motorcycle team, it only meant sense to include Percy in this drawing. So, apparently Gordon is the oldest member of the motorcycle team. What are the chances that Percy and Gordon are the only members of the team in question? I suppose we'll know if I ever decide to do any more videos on this topic. Unfortunately, I haven't incorporated Sir Topham Hatt anywhere in this drawing, since I had no idea how to even visualise such a mess of random phonemes. This drawing is a bit more sensible than Percy's own drawing that I did in the previous mistranslation video, in so much as Percy and Gordon have decided to race their bikes on an actual racetrack and not a park. But I suppose sensibility is relative when you're drawing locomotives riding bikes. Going back to the original video, I think the point about Gordon being willing to help the smaller engines is important, and sometimes easy to miss. There have definitely been times in the past where Gordon doesn't really have his good-hearted side, and his role is basically just relegated to the pompous one. Now don't get me wrong, there are plenty of stories even in the Railway series where Gordon doesn't redeem himself at the end, but there are plenty of reminders of his more selfless side, particularly in his own book when he helps James and Thomas out of bad situations. Whilst the Ark era seasons had plenty of great stories, I do think they had a tendency to exaggerate specific traits of certain characters, and I feel like Gordon is a prime example. He was basically just written as a pompous fool who would get cut down to size at the end of each episode he starred in. I hope that the next iteration of Thomas and Friends makes a concerted effort to make the characters three-dimensional. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But, with that said and done, here is the completed image. And finally for this video, it's Henry, a reminder of his original character bio. Henry is a long, fast engine. He has a thoroughbred look, and like all thoroughbreds tends to be somewhat highly strung and prone to illness. But he has his new shape now, and sympathetically driven, he'll give any engine a run for his money. And here it is after getting the translation treatment. Henry was a large, strong, very fast man, but like a thoroughbred, and like other horses of his own race, he was gentle and ill-tempered. His exuberance, his happy and energetic personality, his playful riding style made him a formidable competitor to all other pure-blood horses. So that's a promising sign. The new and improved bio can't decide whether Henry is a man or a horse. At any rate, he's certainly not an engine. I probably should have been prepared for the mention of horses when you consider the fact that Henry's original character bio makes liberal use of the term thoroughbred to describe Henry. I figured that if the bio can't decide what type of creature Henry is, I'll have to split the difference. Henry is part man and part horse. As the saying goes, normal words, but a horse guy. I'd never watched BoJack Horseman, I would like to give it a watch at some point, but I feel like I just don't consume enough media in general. I think that's partially the result of not always having the time, and partially because I feel like committing to watching a brand new show I've never seen before will go one of two ways. Either I won't like it and the whole endeavour would have been a waste of time, or I'll hyperfixate on it and become my entire personality for the next month or so. I know this is a mindset I need to break out of. But enough of that, back to Henry the man horse. I decided to focus on the part of the bio that talks about how much of a strong competitor he is to the other horses. So I decided to have him take part in a horse race. The other horses look a bit confused at this bizarre creature jogging down the racetrack. Hardcore fans of the sport may consider Henry's approach to the game to be a form of cheating, but the way I see it, as long as he's enjoying himself, it doesn't really matter, and he certainly looks to be having the time of his life. And so, here is the completed illustration. And there we are, Edward, Gordon and Henry according to Google Translate and others. These translations were probably even wackier than the ones from the first video on this topic, which definitely gave me a challenge when attempting to adapt the translated bios into images, but I think it worked out well in the end. Let me know what you think, and if you'd like to see another video on mistranslated engines further down the line. But that's all I've got for now, so be sure to tune in next week for another drawing video, and I'll see you then.